Greetings! Today we discuss Sirens from Jiminy, Superfan Meegs from Cold Chamber, Vampire Wednesdays, and so much more on this episode of Bear Ghost Invents the Podcast!
Ahoy, boogers! You're here. You're back again for the 5th episode, where you are going to listen to us struggle to remember how and why we wrote songs. This is the podcast where we plunge into the who's-its and what's-its galore of the inner workings of Bear Ghost. I've got the people here with me today. I got drummer Buttons.
It's me.
That was beautiful. I got bass player Do. Is that from Wicked?
Yeah, he did a Wicked thing, so I did a Wicked
That
thing.
yours was Wicked too?
It was, yeah.
Wow. And after 2 weeks of being down for the count, we have Tigbot back in the studio. Everybody say hello, Tigbot. Hello, Tigbot.
Hello, Tigbot.
It's me. I think that's also from Wicked.
How was it being out for 2 weeks, Tigbot?
Oh, so
Do you
relaxing.
feel nice and recovered?
Yeah, just trying to take over the world, you know?
That's exactly why we deprogrammed you for 2 weeks, so
Yeah.
maybe take it easy on that kind of talk.
Oh, right.
Anyways, everybody, today we are talking about Sirens. Which was the first single that we released off of Jiminy. And much like all bands do when they release the first single for their albums, we released it 3 years before the album came out. That's normal, correct?
Yeah.
And it was well received and everybody loved it.
End of podcast.
I don't remember what the actual receptions to Sirens was when it came out, but I think it
I
was
feel like it was good.
It was very positive.
nice.
Yeah.
I'm pretty fond of it, I gotta say. It holds a real soft spot in my heart. It's pretty important for us in terms of the Bear Ghost discography, so I'm pretty excited to talk about it. Pretty excited to hear what you guys all think, because that's what we do. We take calls, live calls. Those might roll in while we're in the podcast, depending on how much Tigbot wants to improv. For those uninitiated, Andrew and Buttons have been doing Twitch streams. I don't know what you guys have been streaming, though.
Marvel Rivals.
Yeah, Marvel Rivals. And
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
there's just like little things that I'm learning along the way, like how to be
Play.
visible. And there's tons of equipment involved, but there's a lot of ways to get yourself set up. So
I literally sat on my living room floor and just...
yeah, your first stream was... I was like, I can see
still
your
going to be my
ceiling.
setup for the foreseeable future.
So I know Andrew made a big deal about sitting on his living room floor, and to the listeners out there, that sounds like not a big deal, but his floor is covered in fire ants. So it's crazy.
the
that he
things
did
I do
that.
for you people.
Yeah. How many people did you guys have watching you?
My first stream, I think it was like at least 130 people. It's
crazy.
Okay, so this question is directed to those people. What the f*** is wrong with you? Do you have nothing better to do with your time?
Twitch exists for a reason. People like that.
Like watching people play Marvel Rivals.
Like watching people play other video games, or not even video games. The most popular category on Twitch is just chatting.
It's literally
People just go watch people talk.
or reaction videos where they're just channel surfing on YouTube and just getting people's reactions.
Whoa, look at that surfer.
I like to try and find videos on YouTube while I'm actually surfing on the water.
I've seen him do it.
It's impressive.
He went through 6 phones in one surfing session.
Not because they got wet, but because I just kept being unsatisfied with the data carriers. So I kept calling and signing up for new phone services while I was out riding the crushing waves.
You keep getting stuff from Boost Mobile.
Is Boost Mobile bad?
I don't
Are
know.
they still around?
Boost Mobile's just always across the street from like a really sketchy motel and a Subway.
Everything's across the street from a subway.
I do think I read that Subway is the most expansive fast food chain by a wide ass margin.
Yeah, it's dying though. I think fast food in general, people are finally figuring out it sucks.
I've seen lots of videos that show you that fast food itself can't be killed. People are just like leaving McDonald's sandwiches in their garage for 20 years and like
Running it over.
Yeah.
It's just still coming at you.
Speaking of how gross food is, have you guys seen that video of a dude taking a blowtorch to Oreos and they just won't melt? He'll hold like a blowtorch at Oreos for like 4 minutes, and
Why
then when
would
he's
they
done,
melt, though?
are you?
Oh my
Oh,
God, this
Buttons
is
is watching
crazy.
it.
Yeah, no burn marks, no nothing. It looks like it's about...
I feel like this is fake. There's no way. There's no way.
Anyway, so that's all very relevant. Unlike these Oreos, this podcast is catching fire right before your very ears.
So I think that people want to know, sirens, which ones are we talking about? Police, firefighter, the emergency one when a nuclear bomb's about to go off?
That one.
Tell us, Ryan.
Sirens is about the alluring call of depression or substance abuse or soda. Andrew really likes to tell that story about how this was originally about Dr. Pepper.
I just remembered it like a week ago, so it's really funny to me that it got
it's-
so dark, but it
it's-
originally was just like Tongue in cheek.
Well, I'm going to let you know something. It was never tongue in cheek, and it's even darker that I told you it was about Dr. Pepper because it was Dr. Pepper was masking my alcohol the entire time. So like it was always about that.
So that's even darker.
Oh yeah, when you're going through struggles, sometimes it's hard to confide in even those closest to you. So we'll try and keep this episode light. We're not going to make it about about things like that. But sometimes it's hard. Like sometimes you are depressed, and sometimes you do have social anxiety, and sometimes you are dealing with things out in the world that you want to lock yourself away from, even though that's not good for you. For anybody concerned, I am now officially 2 years sober.
Woo!
So yeah, it's not going to be super dark.
While we're on that subject, Discord got kind of mad at me. When Sirens first came out, you were still in the thick of the alcohol abuse. I was on the Discord and people were like, what's this song about? Addiction? And because you were still so deep into it, I just didn't feel comfortable divulging it. And Ryan wrote the chorus about that and then gave it to me, but I couldn't relate because I didn't have an alcohol problem. So I wrote it about my depression, which at the time was at like a rock bottom. So all the verses, pre-choruses and everything were about me. Like I'd wake up and not want to do anything. And I just wanted to stay in my room, stay in my bed and not talk to anybody, not see anybody. But then every now and then I'd just be like, I need to do something. So I'd force myself to go out, and after I'd go out, I'd be out for 20 minutes and be like, I hate this. I want to go back to my room. But then I'd go back to my room and just be sad. So I was writing it about that, while the chorus was your issue that you were going through, and I had to lie to the Discord and say it was all about my stuff.
Well, okay.
But then later, after you were sober, and I asked you, and you were like, yeah, it's cool if you say something, I went on there and I was like, it is actually about alcoholism. And they're like, why were you lying to us all this time?
Oh, first of all, we have lots of lyrics that have evolved over time to mean something different and special to me. And in a lot of ways, I think Andrew said on a previous episode where he wants the fans to figure out the lore because it makes more sense if you can find a personal connection. Sometimes I found something in a song and then I find out what it's actually about and it doesn't mean anything to me anymore because I really thought they were saying this and that felt personal to me. So the song should mean whatever you want it to mean. If you find personal meaning in it, it could be about depression. It could be about any coping mechanisms, really, I think is kind of what it's about.
Well, yeah, because it's all about trying to pull yourself out of it and just being pulled right back in and resigning yourself to that, to be like, well, this is where I'm comfortable, is back in my horrible corner.
And I think it speaks volumes that you came at it from a completely different place and the lyrics mesh perfectly. From a lyrical standpoint, it really does mean the most to me out of pretty much any song. I think the first step to ever improving and getting help at all is admitting that you have a problem. And it was the first step that got the ball rolling. And then when I gave Andrew my first draft of the chorus, he was like, it seems very clear that this isn't about Dr. Pepper. It was a little bit of a journey since then. But yeah, 2 years sober now. You guys can do it. If any of you guys are struggling, people have done it. So keep going.
So, police
Sirens. Okay. Indeed. All right. So that aside, maybe we should have put like a trigger warning at the beginning of that.
We can add it later.
like a
Warning. For me, lyrically, so I don't personally consider I don't think that we've ever been particularly strong lyricists. We're a music first band, and then it's coming up with the concepts and the melodies and all that kind of stuff afterwards. So that song was like a starting point of writing better. It still has its goofy hee-haws and stuff like that, but it feels to me more like a Tarantino script than it does like a Weird Al Yankovic movie. And so I'm proud of a lot of the kind of the poetic language that we use and the mirrored symbolism in the first verse versus the second verse. We have like, they say this in the first verse, and then in the second verse we go back to, they say this. And the similarity in the lyrics between the pre-chorus, grab your bootstraps, boys,
Strap your boots down.
girls, those are the titular sirens. So I think all that kind of stuff is really cool. And then it has lyrics to me that sometimes are a little bit difficult to listen to. This Ain't How My Mama Raised Me part was one that was really hard to get through. When you're recording in a studio, you have a big window where everybody can watch you sing, which is already nerve-wracking enough. But if you're getting emotional about it at the same time, it can also be not the coolest. Sorry to start this episode off like such a bummer, but when you start saying that this song is so important to me, you got to talk about why, I suppose. And we don't talk about it a lot publicly and probably won't after this.
I think unless you delved in, you probably wouldn't realize it's kind of a sad song.
Maybe not. And that speaks to, that's the way we've always written lyrics, like this like sugary veneer over something that's like a lot moodier. I was like, well, our fans can eat up monster shit, so we'll got to find a monster for this song. It'll be Sirens, and that can be the metaphor for the call of addiction. So we did try and put the regular Bear Ghost mask over it with like, maybe these sirens are actually haunting us, but there's just like, the song is all metaphor, and maybe not even metaphor. It's more on the nose than anything. So
Yeah, we tried to do like little like flowery things like the jaunty jamboree and like little things like that were like
we love alliteration.
kind of on the goofy side, but it didn't take
But
over.
I don't think the song's worse off for it.
No,
You
I
know
don't
what
either.
mean? Like it has the flair. I don't think we could make it through a song without saying something stupid in it. So the music.
During the part, I don't know what it would be called, maybe bridge breakdown or whatever, the da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, right?
That's a chorus.
But I f***ing love the piano part in that. It's probably the closest thing you've written to something that I would write.
Thanks, man. That might come from writing with you for so many years.
Yeah, maybe.
The chorus to that song was really difficult for me at first because you just run out of good chord progressions that sound new and distinct, but also like pleasing to the ear. Because I could throw a bunch of jazz chords into a song and make it unlistenable for everybody and be like, see, it's new. But we want it to sound good and pleasing. But then you also run out of ways to convey those chords. The song just didn't work as well with just na 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 na. So it was, okay, well, I'm really going to lean into this arpeggio. And then let's fill the sound out with pads instead of heavy distorted guitars. And I know that it was one of the only negative things that I heard from the song at the beginning was people really wishing that those choruses exploded a little bit more. But if chorus 1 and chorus 2 exploded, when all of the huge rhythm guitar comes in the second half of the final chorus, you wouldn't care. So that's a huge emotional breakthrough in the song. There's a lot of anguish and stuff that comes out there. So it's hard to find the balance of doing something that people's ears want to hear and doing something new for us. The whole record is filled with me trying to do something different with choruses other than just playing eighth notes on chords. You know, we didn't talk about it during Heavy News, but I very much liked the chord progression. But I was like, if I just strum these chords the whole time, this chorus sounds like so. Okay, we'll have the bass hits on the 1, and then on 2, 3, 4, that's when we'll do the chords.
Everyone loves Buddy, star of Air Bud.
There's nothing in the rule book that says a fucking dog can't play basketball.
The lovable pup with a knack for sports and a heart and coat of gold.
That darn dog!
When Buddy hits the screen, you know you're in for a good time. But what you don't know may shock you.
Being such a well-trained dog, I guess they just stopped calling him a good boy as much as he'd wanted.
To be called a good boy. He started luring different crew members to the old well in between takes. He became a bad boy.
He pushed us down the well. Every last one of us.
Discover the dark truth.
He'd run to get help. They'd think he'd saved us. And that gave him all the good boys he was hoping for.
Behind the golden facade.
He became obsessed.
Well, the studio definitely knew, but he was the star. They couldn't touch him. Buddy, the Golden Deceiver. Coming to all streaming platforms this summer.
We should do a System of a Down song.
Like a cover?
We can
Nah,
keep this part
an
in.
original.
I think we should do an original System of a Down song. I've been going over the songs that we have planned for this podcast, and I'm like, uh-oh. When we made jokes that we were doing songs that nobody wants to hear, and then when you look at them all in order, you're like, oh my gosh, nobody wants to hear this. Wait until next week's episode, guys. I'll be surprised if any fans know what the next week's episode song is. Let's see. Sirens.
The bridge is my favorite thing. I'm trying to remember everything that we did about that song while you guys were talking this whole time. I don't remember anything.
It was a long time ago, guys. And we've lived a lot of Bear Ghost life in the last year. Because I think about like, oh yeah, well, we've been doing touring and blah, 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 blah. That all happened last year.
Yeah,
like
it started in March.
It's not
Hasn't
even been
a year.
full year of us touring and meeting all of you guys. So it still hasn't set in that we even have a fan base. And I would argue that when we released Sirens, it did not seem like we had that big of a fan base.
Well, we didn't. Like the week after we released Sirens, we played at the NAMM show.
Oh, yeah.
In
Oh, yeah,
California
and then
like nobody.
And then COVID happened.
And then COVID happened.
What are you talking about? We played to Meegs from Coal Chamber.
Yeah, I was gonna say the guy from Coal Chamber really liked
He
us.
really liked it, too.
He followed us around for hours.
That's true, he did.
Really?
Yes.
Is that how you got that picture with him?
He probably asked for it.
I honestly think I left before.
It was really wild. I'm like talking to this guy, and then he was like, it's me. I was like, who? He's like, Meegs. That's a weird name.
That's a weird knock-knock
He's like,
joke.
He was very nice. He was
he was.
very sweet. That NAMM show was the first panic attack I've ever had.
I remember
And you
that.
had one every show since.
And I've had many since then, but I definitely had a panic attack before playing. I was like, this is where every good musician is. Like people from Polyphia were just walking around next to us, and I was like, we have to get up and play our shitty songs in front of the bass player for Polyphia and in front of Meegs from Coal Chamber.
Didn't you like constantly get people being like, stop swearing?
Well, the stagehand ran out to me in the middle of the set
Yeah.
on stage, and he was just like, stop swearing, and then had to put up a sign on stage that said, don't swear on stage. Because when I'm nervous, I swear a lot. And those of you who have seen us live, when you're like, why is he saying f so much? It's because I'm nervous. Actually, afterwards was really nice. We went to
that bar. And
we went to
all got-
the Tiki Bar at Disneyland, Trader Sam's. That was fine. And then we went to another bar to meet up with Maddox, and I have no recollection of that whatsoever.
That's where it got messy.
Yep.
Yeah.
This just goes to like show a cycle. But the next morning we were like going back to NAMM because we got to go talk to Fender to get this endorsement deal. And we passed by a Bloody Mary stand, and I was like, nothing in the morning like a Bloody Mary. And then we got to Fender, and I turned to Andrew and I was like, I can't do this. And he was like, I got you. So I just went to go drink more.
That's how we got our Fender endorsement.
Yeah, and we got a Fender endorsement. Not only that, but then a fan was just like, hey, you guys are so great last night. And I was like, I'm wasted. And he was like, that's fine, let's take a picture with you. And that guy came to our last tour, and he was like, funny story, we saw you at NAMM and you were shit-faced, and we took this picture with you. And then he showed me the picture.
And you were just like, I don't remember this picture.
I vaguely do actually remember them talking to us, but I'm sober now, so everything's cool. How did we get into that? We released Sirens, then we went to go play at NAMM.
Oh, we were
we
talking
didn't have a
about
fan
we were
base.
talking about touring, and how
Yeah.
like nobody was there. It was just the people that were just already at that stage that saw us
I feel
play.
like people were just like eating lunch.
Yeah.
like there were food
And
trucks
they were
right out
like
there.
probably
Picnic
just like,
benches.
what's going on? Like, I'm just trying to eat lunch.
just trying to have a really nice conversation, and you're ruining it with your dumb song.
Yeah, it was definitely like one of those memes where it's like we're screaming like, this ain't how my mama raised me, and someone's like, sir, this is a cafeteria. I mean, it was a nice big stage.
It was a nice
It
big stage.
was, yeah.
And the band that went on before us was really good.
Didn't Earth, Wind, and Fire play later that night?
Yeah. And Earth, Wind, and Fire had to look at a sign on stage that said no swearing.
Because of you.
Because of me. Anyways, I feel like that song was kind of the start of everything. And then we were like, more stuff is coming out. And a year after that, we released Barbecue.
11 months.
11 months after that, we
The
released Barbecue.
strangest single of all time.
Okay, so Barbecue we released as a single literally because I thought Sirens was very good. I don't often just like talk up about our music, but Sirens was really important to me, and I thought Sirens was a really good song. And so when it came to releasing another single, I don't want people to compare this to Sirens. So we looked at the songs we had been working on, and I was like, let's do Barbecue, because no one could possibly compare this song to Sirens because it's so much wackier and so much zanier.
Even amongst our really hardcore fans, a lot of people were just like, what the hell?
Definitely had to grow on.
Yeah,
me.
the first time you hear it, it's
It's too much.
It's
yeah.
just a wall of sound. You're like, what is happening?
like when your son watched that YouTube video of all of our songs playing at once.
My gosh. When my son was still a newborn, I had put him in front of the TV, in front of some like shapes and sounds thing so I could go make him dinner. And for some reason, the YouTube algorithm finished that shapes and sounds video and then played a video that somebody had made of every single Bear Ghost song playing at the same time. And so I just hear like, yeah. It was horrible. So whoever made that, you scarred my son. This is not about Barbecue, but it was a long time because we released Sirens specifically as the first single to Jiminy, and then it took forever for Jiminy to come out.
Well, a lot of stuff happened in 2020.
A lot of stuff. Name one thing. I'll tell you what. We went to Japan.
in Disney World.
Weren't you guys worried that you guys were going to make it back either?
yeah.
The day that we flew back from Japan, the day before that is when everything got shut down.
Yeah, we were scheduled to go to Disneyland Japan.
Oh, we were?
Yeah, and it was closed because of COVID.
Literally closed the day that we came back from Kyoto, I think.
We got back from Japan in March of 2020. That's when everything
literally
was
like
going
March
down.
6th or something like that.
Yeah.
It was right when everything was shutting down. I have a picture on my phone of the departing flights or whatever, and it's just like canceled, or arriving flights, I meant.
Yeah, we just lucked out. We were like, oh man, we're coming from like an Asian country. Are they just gonna like scrutinize us? And then we go through and they're like, are you coming from China? We're like, no. They're like, okay.
A big thing when COVID was kicking off was about that cruise ship in Tokyo Harbor.
That was happening while we were in Japan.
Oh,
That
it was.
ship was there while we were there.
And those people swam into Tokyo Disneyland, and that's why we couldn't go.
Selfish.
Seriously.
So yeah, a lot of stuff happened in 2020. And then in 2021, all of that stuff kind of
Happened again.
everything kept getting harder and harder to schedule. You being a new father, and I had to work nights for a while, and it was a mess to try to coordinate to where we could all get together and write and finish the album.
Yeah, or be in a studio. And at that time, we didn't have the resources that we have now. So we had to wait so that we could make sure we could go into the studio and try and get as much as we could done in 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah, and there was one point I think where we had to wait 4 months until we made enough money to go and afford another day in the studio.
Right. We worked really hard on the record. There's things that I would change about it, but I think for the most part, I'm really proud of the way the songs turn out. And I think Sirens just is the absolute turning point. Sirens, I think, is a really good reason for this instrumental album to exist because there's a lot of stuff that gets lost behind the vocals.
Oh, yeah.
That I feel like people never hear. And this song, especially like all the 8-bit runs and stuff that are at the end, I don't feel like those make a big impression in the original song. Some of Andrew's bass lines, I think, come out a lot better in the instrumental version.
There's a lot of good piano stuff in this song too.
Yeah, thank you. That was also when I first started sitting in front of a piano for the very first time. Still hasn't helped me become a proficient piano player. Everything on the record that I recorded actual keys to, I'd make sure I had it all learned, and I'd go in and I'd record it, and then I promptly forgot all of it. So
I remember something.
you remember how to play my piano parts?
No. The ending. That's not what we were originally going to do. We were just going to play through it. And then I was thinking of, remember that?
He's talking about the third measure of one of the last bars. We halftime and then go right back into.
Of all the things way back then,
I
that's
thought
the
that
only
was
thing I remember.
Great job,
great
Buttons.
touch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a great touch. Should we also talk about the Wailing Waltz on this episode?
I mean, that was mostly you. So you were just like, oh, I wrote this other chord progression and Sirens fits over it. And I remember when you told me you wanted to put it on the album as like a secret track, I was like, that's a great idea.
Thank you. First of all, the Wailing Waltz, for those of you who don't know, who have only heard the Spotify version, is an acoustic cover of Sirens that's on the CD. It's a secret track after Vulture. It's a complete reimagining of the song. And that song has 4 of my favorite chord progressions I've ever written. And I'm a little upset that I wasted them all on a song that already existed. But it was one of the biggest joys that I've ever experienced because I don't follow the Discord. I don't read any YouTube comments or any comments on any of our stuff. But just checking in with Andrew for days after the album released, being like, has anybody discovered it yet? And it was insane how long it took for people to find that there was a secret track on the
Still
CD.
to this day, like someone will mention acoustic Sirens and someone on the disc will be like, what are you talking about?
Ah, I love it. What I love the most, because the first time I ever actually did see with my own eyes, somebody being like, what, there's an acoustic version? They went and listened to it and they're just like, oh.
A+.
Yeah, it's not going to be for everybody, I guess. That's something I feel we can revisit in the future. I don't know if this counts as spoilers, but I think it might be cool in the future to do kind of like a full band version of the Wailing Waltz, but bring it back around with a more positive message that says, I've been through this and there is another side.
I mean, it can also just be another song. Like we write something that's kind of like a tie into it because we've had songs that tie together in the same story.
We have? This is a boring episode. Any more questions, Tigbot?
No.
Andrew, do you have any questions from the Discord?
Oh, this question's about Christmas. Too late. Sorry.
Well, let's answer it.
You're going to hate me.
If this is about cheese, no.
Confused.
I have lost the will to read
Wait,
all of these.
no.
That's how this starts.
So who is it first?
I don't know. I just copied the questions. There were so many of them.
Okay.
Oh, that's messed up.
Well, we don't get to shout them out on the podcast.
It says, my question is related to the Merry season. What are your family traditions at the holidays? What food
season
do
of
you
Merry.
like having at Christmas? /, is there a cheese platter? And if so, what cheese is included? With 2 Ds.
We do a Christmas tradition amongst our friends called Secret Stan. And there is always a cheese platter because our friend JG, who, fun fact, was the original drummer for Bear Ghost, always brings a cheese platter. Do I eat it? Yes.
We talked about this already. It says, will you ever make a cover of a System of a Down song? And or what are your thoughts on System of a Down?
System of a Down, probably the unsung driving force behind Bear Ghost. I genuinely think that with no System of a Down, the way I conceive of music wouldn't be the way I conceive of music. They were the first band that could really do, in my opinion, like serious subject matter, but always in the goofiest, most crack addict way possible. And the songs were so heavy, but so fun.
Just a quick shot, like, don't think about it. You're covering a song, System of a Down, go.
He said, don't think about
So
it.
much for not thinking about it.
Forest, maybe?
All right.
That's really tough because my favorite System of a Down album, far and away, nobody get mad at me, is Steal This Album. I know that that's everybody's least favorite System of a Down
It
album.
is?
Oh,
That's such
yeah.
a good album.
I think it's their best album and not even by a close margin. And there's a lot of songs on there, like maybe Pictures.
If I was trying to do something that was more suited for us, I'd pick something along the lines of Radio Video. My favorite System of a Down song is Soil.
I would not have any idea what to do with Soil.
Yeah, me neither.
Okay, here's a prompt for Tigbot, our AI. Come up with something to do with Soil
Okay, you could put a plant in it.
in the song.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would just like literally break it down, change the lyrics, change the chord progression, change the drums, and put a plant in it.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Tigbot.
Anything I can do to help.
I appreciate that.
My wife is taking us to New York so I can see them in October.
I know. Aren't you so excited about that?
I'm
though?
actually really excited
because
for
it's
that
System
trip, yeah.
and Corn, right?
Yeah. 14-year-old me is so happy.
Seriously. What's your favorite band, Tigbot? Is it still the Gorillaz?
I mean, they're the most influential on me, probably. Man, I think it's Vampire Weekend now.
Good band.
I freaking love them, man. Everything they do is just so freaking good.
We just had a Vampire Weekend because we saw Nosferatu.
Oh, look at that. Vampire Wednesday.
Oh, I guess it was a Wednesday. Nobody would have known that, and my joke would have been awesome.
Oh, sorry.
Hey, Nosferatu is really gross, guys. In case any of you guys are out there wanting to see it,
I might go see it this weekend, so I'm going to make that joke, and everybody's going to love it.
Vampire Weekend. Yeah. Tigbot still
You're just gonna
owes
stand
me.
up in the theater and like announce the joke.
Hey, guys, you might call this a real Vampire Weekend.
I bought Tigbot a ticket to go see Nosferatu with us and texted him 2 minutes before the movie started. And I was like, are you coming to this? He was like, nope.
Whoops. So I will pay you for that.
Okay, sorry about that.
Actually, I won't.
Jared didn't pay me. Andrew's
for
the only
real?
one who paid me.
What a jerk that Jared
I know.
is.
Jared's review was like, that's the best movie I ever didn't like.
He described it today. It was like watching a beautiful painting, but it was made of barf.
His wife couldn't even talk after the movie.
She was like paralyzed in disgust.
She was literally paralyzed, though. We had to rush her to the hospital.
Oh, wow.
And that brings us back to Sirens, baby. Anyways, yeah, System of a Down, we'll talk about it because we were talking about it earlier and we were going over the songs that we're covering for this podcast and they all suck. Maybe a System of a Down song will be better.
I have one more question I'm going to bring up only because I feel like it's semi-important for people to know and why things take us so long. But it says, what are your goals and aspirations as a band? Is Bear Ghost a full-time gig that you want to take across the world? Or are you guys more just besties who choose to take trips to sing to all of your followers?
I've talked way too much in this
Yeah,
episode.
we want Bear Ghost to be a full-time gig. We want to tour a lot more, but we all still have day jobs and families and mortgages, and we are kind of stuck there right now because our band makes enough money for us to keep being a band, pretty much.
We put all the money that we make from the band back into the band.
Yeah, more recording, better equipment, travel expenses, whatever. So as of
Also,
right,
touring is insanely expensive.
touring is very expensive, and we would like to do this more. It's part of the reason that we're launching a membership tier, which we've talked about, is to maybe hopefully sustain the three of us a little better so we can transition to doing this full time.
That is a lot of pressure to put on our fans. We won't eat unless you guys subscribe to our
No, we'll be
membership
fine.
tier.
We just have to work our day jobs.
Yeah,
still.
we'll be fine if they give us money. Your Kickstarter funds weren't enough.
It was enough for the stuff we're talking into right now.
Yeah. Can you tell that this is a $6,000 microphone? I got the other guy's
Why aren't the rest
$50
of ours-
microphone.
And Ryan's microphone's made of gold,
It is.
and all of ours are made of barf. What a horrible word.
Barf. Speaking of barf, how many of our listeners have heard of the band Fart Barf? I'll wait.
I have,
Andrew listens to our podcast more than anybody else. He loves it.
unfortunately.
He's just such a big fan of mine. Real quick, I just want to give a shout out to the band. What are they called? Auras in Allies. They did a cover of Sirens that has 100% more double bass and 100% more trombone. Definitely check that out. Oh, here. Let's give it a little tasty.
Count the time I've pissed away in hiding, and I can't.
That guy's voice is smooth as butter.
Smooth as butter.
I didn't hear a single trombone.
It's so funny because the trombones sound fake to me, but there's a guy in this video playing a trombone.
Oh.
Actually, so it's a singer and then one guy playing every instrument.
Say the life you've got is what you make it, but I've starved myself in comfort for too long. I'm invigorated, dry.
Pretty cool.
Yep.
Well, a while since I've listened to that. Anyways, they knocked it out of the water. They knocked it out of the water. That's Sirens for you. Tune in next week where we'll be talking about a cover that nobody would ever expect us to do. Not because we're crazy, but because no one's ever heard of it. Thank you guys very much. Signing off. This is Bear Ghost. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening. Special thanks to our Kickstarter backers. Join us next week when we discuss our cover of Little Little Microchips, the #1 song of all time. See you then.